All right, so we'll get started. So nice to see such a big, large crowd that came for our talk today.
We'll
You know,
make
it's building, the
extra
momentum
noise.
is building.
We'll make extra noise to make up.
No, you know, the thing is, so Russ and I've been doing some of these classes on Zoom and stuff, and so you would get disappointed if like not everybody showed up, right? You know, like only like if there was a couple people missing. And then over the course of the years, you know, somebody told us, and you know, through our learning and realization as well, is only one person need to show up, and it's worth it. It's actually some of the most intimate and the best sessions are when it's few people. So it's not about the size that makes it so successful. You know, you're preaching whatever you're trying to do devotional service wise. It's the involvement of the people that makes it so special. So that doesn't bother me anymore. It's a good thing. All right, Hare Krishna, thanks for making it. Appreciate it. I'm glad you guys want seats. Anyway, well, welcome to another session of VBS.
Thanks for packing the house.
You know, that's what I do. That's just my name draws people. Okay, so let's just start with
your
a.
picture.
It was a little invocation. It's my guerrilla marketers.
I saw your picture. You're like, this there? Let's go.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Pastichadi Shatadine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right. Okay, let's get started. So my last time I spoke, we talked about a very light subject of what's the meaning of life, and now we back it up with another very light subject of how to talk to God. So, joking, obviously, this is a really good one, and like Grish and I were talking last time, is the process of preparing is so purifying for the speaker. And in this one, I can honestly say, if you guys remind me, I'll tell you a question that I had, that I asked that I wasn't very happy with not happy, I wasn't very fulfilled with the answer that I got. And through this process of preparing for this, the answer revealed itself, and my wife also concurred. So I'll tell you about that afterwards. And so it's a process of literally, I had a question that I asked probably a few months back, and I got the answer doing this research. So pretty cool. So in other words, thank you for the opportunity, Shami, to step in for you. Okay, so like the subject matter is reading the tea leaves, how and when Krishna or divinity communicates with us. So that's what we're going to talk about. And through the process, we're going to talk about. All right, so let's do this.
Can you share what reading the tea leaves means?
Oh, okay, yeah. Are you guys familiar with that saying, that accent, the tea leaves?
No.
So it's an old Chinese story about Chinese fortune tellers.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it started off with like, they would talk about challenges or would ask for guidance. And this whole art and science, I guess, evolved from the fact that after you're done drinking your tea, the way that the tea leaves are left in the cup can actually give you some guidance about some of your questions. Yes?
I think you know it from Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, see, this is my generation, guys. Okay, so that's the tea leaves. Because Krishna, as we're going to learn, sometimes is not direct in his communication. And so what happens to us sometimes is because he's not direct, we kind of forget about it. And that's his whole Leela as well. So it's good stuff. Okay, so can somebody tell me, why is it important to connect with Krishna or God or divinity? So this is a nice, good group here, so please be interactive with me.
To find your purpose.
To find your purpose. Good.
Is to maintain a lifelong relationship because we're gonna come and go, but that connection with God will be with us for our entire lives, no matter where we are.
Awesome. Good. Very nice. Anybody else?
To seek greater.
To seek guidance, absolutely. Yeah.
We should know something about our creator.
We should know something about our creator. Who is he? What is he like?
Yeah.
So you can get an idea. Okay, good.
To be really satisfied.
To be completely at peace, satisfied, complete fulfillment of the meaning of life. Right? Good. Anybody else?
I think life is like full of misery and sadness. So when you get connected to the God,
Mm-hmm.
it gets really.
Yeah. So the suffering of this material world is eradicated when we're connected with Krishna. And because once you're connected with Krishna, since he's all spiritual, you're in the spiritual world. Yeah, and so that misery. Good. Okay. Very good. Okay. So did somebody say to understand who we really are and our true nature? I think somebody was alluding to that. To understand who God is, right? We talked about that. If we don't know who he is, it's hard to really understand who we are, right? To understand what is the goal of life. I think somebody said that. So many words. To live our lives in alignment with our soul or with our goal, right? Once we understand what the meaning of life is, then we need to understand how to align ourselves with that. Basically, is to understand how to go about doing our dharma. What is our dharma and how to do it? Remember we talked about that last time. Hare Krishna. To understand what the events in our lives mean. Something happens to us. On the surface, on the material, I think it was you talking about it. I think when something happens to us, there's a material interpretation, what we see, feel, touch, right, through our senses. But then there might be other things that we may not be aware of, right? So a person who wears glasses, if you ask me to read the back room, I probably can't. But if I have glasses on, I can read it, right? So same thing. We can see with our perceptions and our senses what an event may be telling us. But then is there more that we're not seeing, that we're just not aware of? The glasses that we may need, or the eyes? Okay, cool. There's yours, to find peace, to love, and happiness. Okay, so we're going to do a little breakout session. So just turn to somebody next to you and share a time when you really felt God's presence in your life. You know, has there been a time where you're like, man, I think this is what God wants me to do? So just have a little chat. And then those of you guys want to share, we can share. So you take like a minute and kind of just talk about amongst yourself and figure out if there was a time ever where God you actually felt his presence or he communicated with you. You can do all three.
Because when I get something which I know I totally don't deserve, I don't know what to do. And most of the time I don't feel it when I'm too happy. I just do some normal days, basic going fine.
That's why you encourage people, right? Really like that. That's not
People leave you alone and you can live your real life.
Good value. That's actually fine.
Because you're boring, they'll leave you alone from their drama and thinking about it.
I feel the same way. One time I encountered terrible accident. And that was the moment I felt like it was entirely a magic that I'm seeing right now. And that was horrible. Like struck. Just passed like the moment I fell down and I just got up and I took one step aside. The dude struck past like high speed. And I felt like that was like measles.
How are we doing? Are you guys ready?
Really good.
Okay, just wind up your thoughts real quick, and then who wants to go first or share or?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in India. I encountered a bad road accident,
Okay.
and it was highway, and I just fell from my bike with my parent, and I fell down. Then I got up, and I took one step back, and it was just like within a minute it all happened, and that was the moment like huge truck passed like immediately with high speed,
Yeah.
and I felt what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And it was so the timings were so different, and that was the huge moment I felt somebody just did something.
Krishna protected you, pulled you.
Yeah, like, that was just magic.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Wow. That's pretty
That was a
impactful.
major event happened in my
Major
life,
event.
where
Yeah.
I felt like somebody like hold me and asked me to take a step back, and it was
Nice.
just like the difference was not even like
Yeah, you don't even know why you stepped back.
yeah, it just happened like within a minute. I fell, I got up, I took a step back, and it was a huge drop off.
Wow.
And that
Thank
was the moment I realized.
Wow.
That's
Thank you
really
for
those
sharing.
steps.
Yeah. That's God communicating with you a little bit, right? Okay. Anybody else? You guys want to share a story? Don't be shy. It could be something small or nothing at all.
Actually, I cannot recall any such.
You can't recall. Okay. That's a good thing. See, that's a great answer. I'm gonna get you. You're gonna figure out by the end why that's such a good answer. Okay. Anybody else?
You want me to embarrass you? I am.
No, I'm not. You cannot go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, one experience I've had is a little bit more direct, and I always consult my brother if this actually happened. But basically, we both were going off from school one day in high school, and we were on the bus. It was just me, him, an older like local woman, the driver and the conductor. And this old lady, like, she just turned to my brother and I, and she told us like, don't forget Mahaprabhu's teachings and always chant Hare Krishna. And then 2 weeks later, she got on the bus, and I never saw her again. And I checked, and I wasn't wearing my tulsi mala. Like, it wasn't visible, and I wasn't talking about anything like Krishna related or whatever it was. I don't know of any other like devotee family there in that entire country. So it just kind of shocked me. And I also asked my brother, like, did this actually happen? And he was like, yeah, I remember it as well. So it just kind of gives me the creeps till today. But
Yeah.
it's a really nice story that like kind of reminds me, kind of like just shows me like it's right there. You know, I don't know.
Krishna's subtle way of telling you what it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Okay, just for time's sake, I'm gonna continue, but I wanted you to get in the mood of kind of just trying to think about how and when Krishna can come in your life, and unexpectedly sometimes. So we'll move on. Okay. So how and when does Krishna communicate with us? So basically, there's 4 different ways. There's probably many, but 4 big categories, right? And tell me if you guys agree. And this is based on scripture, right? So this is not my speculation necessarily, but we can expand on these things, right? With our experiences. So through his devotees, that's pretty clear cut. We've talked about this since you guys have been coming here, how Krishna more times than not communicates through his devotees. And that probably I have had experience probably most times is through devotees. And sometimes reading scripture together, but through devotees. Okay? And then number 2 we're going to talk about is through events in your life, right? So experiences, right? Both positive and challenging can serve as a message for Krishna's leading us towards him. So basically, when something bad happens, quote unquote bad, something good happens, we're going to dive into it and say, what is the message there? And you might be like, what are you talking about? If it's good, I know what's good. But we're going to go behind it to answer your guys' question later on. It's like, hey, listen, I don't know what Krishna is, quite honestly. That's how most of us are, and that's true how I was too. Okay, through intuition, you guys heard of God is Paramatma in our hearts. Yeah, he's a super soul within each our in our hearts. Are you guys familiar with that concept? So God resides, God manifests himself. You just use the Christian word Trinity, if you will. And one of the ways is he's an energy, right? The Brahmajyoti, Brahman. And then the second is he's Paramatma. That means he's in our heart. Okay, so the analogy has been made with two birds sit in your heart. One's your soul, and one is Krishna. And basically, he's observing what we're doing. And then when you turn to him, he makes it easier for you to advance towards him. So Paramatma in our heart, who guides us. Sometimes, and we'll get into it, sometimes it's called intuition. How many times you just said, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do, and you don't know exactly where, it wasn't a scientific fact necessarily. So that's the Paramatma feature. And then the fourth, through devotional service, right? So this is like when realizations come to us while we're in doing our devotional service. Usually, whether, it can be anything. It could be japa, it could be heartfelt kirtan, arti, or it could be something mundane like cutting vegetables, but you're totally focused on doing it for Krishna, and sometimes realizations come our way. So basically, when we think of Krishna, which is usually a devotional service, Krishna reciprocates. Okay, and we're going to get into that. So those are four ways. Anything to add here? How Krishna may, or God or divinity can communicate with us? It's pretty heavy-duty subject matter, but we're going to try to break it down into mundane, normal things. And we want to say is, basically, we want to put on another set of glasses to say, is it really God talking, or is it just our sentimentalism? Okay? Okay, so through the devotees. So there's a, Rasa, do you want to read the Sanskrit?
Yatha tathaiva ata Shri Krishna namadi nabhavet krayam indriye sevanmukhe hi jivado svayam evaspura yada.
Thanks. In translation, somebody?
The devotee understands Krishna through revelation. It is not possible for a mundane scholar to understand Krishna and his pastimes through research work on the non-devotional platform. Srila Prabhupada
Commentary on the verse. And then the verse translation is, no one can understand Krishna by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Okay, so this is Krishna reveals himself when we turn to him, right? And it's not necessarily through books and by reading to get, usually we get our answers and our knowledge through our normal means of education. You guys are obviously, no need to tell you that, but when it comes to bhakti and that intimate relationship, there's something different. There's something else that happens, and that's that heart-to-heart connection that we only get through our services, and when we associate with people that also are like-minded and that have developed their consciousness to the point where they can actually talk, okay, so, and tell us things that we may have questions about. But what's really cool is sometimes a devotee doesn't even know that they're providing you an answer and that they're an instrument from Krishna, and they'll just say something to you. They'll just feel like they're just having this conversation with you, but it actually is Krishna revealing themselves to you because of a deep question that you may have had or a yearning that you wanted. And so that's the process of how Krishna reveals himself. It's primarily through his devotees. Okay. And so there are different people, right? You have your spiritual master, which is the incarnation of Krishna in this material world in human form. You guys heard of that? The spiritual master is really connecting you to Krishna. And so a lot of revelations for us come in that way. So there's a story of Srila Prabhupada, and he did a lot of interviews with reporters. And so a reporter was, asking, he's like, how do you get the inspiration to know who's in charge of opening this temple, or who's in charge of book distribution, or etc. All these big services, because all the kids were like, all the devotees were like in their 20s, like your guys' age, and they took on such big responsibility. So there's a reporter wanted to know, and Prabhupada said, well, there's other devotees there, and Prabhupada said, I talked to Krishna. Krishna tells me who to. And then the devotee corrected Prabhupada and said, well, our philosophy is that, we believe that Krishna will reveal the person that's supposed to do it, but we evaluate on merit. If somebody has a background in publishing, then obviously that would make sense that he's involved in some sort of publishing. And Prabhupada stopped his devotee and says, nope, that's not it at all. That's not what I meant. What I meant was Krishna actually tells me who to appoint. Okay. So what to do? So what to do there? So is Prabhupada saying that he speaks directly to Krishna? Absolutely. So Prabhupada clarifies and says, those people who are advanced enough can talk directly to Krishna, but while we're in the learning phase, he reveals himself through devotees, and particular a spiritual master. So, makes sense, right? The highest level, that's why, like Prabhupada, he started this, if you really think about what he was able to accomplish at such an advanced age in such a short period of time, it's pretty astronomical. It is nothing short of Krishna's mercy that helped accomplish that. And so the point is, when you are self-realized, you can talk directly to Krishna. While all of us in that process, there's different ways that it'll communicate, and through your spiritual master or through devotees, spiritual mentors that you may have, or spiritual friends, people that you like to talk about spiritual subjects with. Krishna is not the friend that is got the power. It's Krishna reaching out to you because you turn to him. Whenever you get interested in Krishna, Krishna gets excited and says, okay, so this person's a little bit excited. Let me help him out. Let him meet him halfway. Okay? Any questions on that? How Krishna may reveal himself to devotees. Now I'll answer this question. So if you don't have any friends that are spiritually minded, guess what? What's going to happen? You're not going to get spiritual answers. Krishna's not going to reveal himself to you. So the first thing they say is, go to a temple, have some prasadam, and hang out with some spiritual friends. That's it. And once you start that, devotees are such characters that they can't help but talk about Krishna. So eventually, something's going to resonate with you. It's really that practical and that mystic at the same time. Okay? Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
So in order for you to engage with somebody, you have to show a desire. And how do you show a desire? By an action. So if you wanted to network for a job, you would go to an event that is promoting network for jobs. You sitting home and talking to a car is not going to get you that job. However, if you go to an event that there's other recruiters there, there's potential employers, okay, now you got a shop. Same concept. It's not complicated, right? But it's very logical, but we don't think it that way. Somehow we think we're so special that why isn't God revealing himself to you? Like I'm Bhavesh. What? Come on, Krishna. What's going on here? Think about that, right? So if we have the desire, Krishna starts to reveal himself, and the best way is through devotees and friends. Okay? Second way is through events in our life. Okay? This is what you were talking about and what we kind of shared. I'm going to talk about a farmer's tale. I think you've heard this story. Tell me if you have. I have to. Okay, so there once was a farmer. But let's say he was in India, okay? Let me just get this thing popped up. Okay. So So this is a Indian farmer, okay? One day the farmer's horse disappeared, okay? And all the neighbors were like, oh my God, what happened? This is such a misfortune, such a bad thing that happened to you. We're so sorry. And the farmer, the wise farmer, just replied, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, so when it's time to say that, you guys say maybe yes, maybe no. Okay? You'll get it. You'll pick it up. So then the following day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses that had found his friends. And at this turn of events, the neighbors all came back and said, what a good fortune.
Maybe yes.
And again, the wise farmer replied,
Maybe yes, maybe no.
okay, good. And then in the days that followed, the farmer's son was training one of the wild horses when he fell off and broke his leg. Okay? The neighbors came to console the farmer. Oh, what a terrible fortune. Your son has a broken leg and can't work. You got to do all the hard work now. Again, the wise farmer simply replied,
Maybe yes, maybe no.
okay. Shortly thereafter, war broke out, okay? And the army came to recruit the farmer's son. Because of his condition, they rejected him. At this, the neighbors joyfully proclaimed, just see what good fortune you had. Because of your son's broken leg, he's not going to be drafted into the army and go to war. Again, the wise farmer replied,
Maybe yes, maybe no.
okay. And so the story goes on. So the story shows how limited vision prevents us from evaluating what is actually good or bad, right? In any given situation. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when things happen to us in life events, there's, like, for example, the horse left. Oh my God, that's horrible. It's bad. But what's behind it is now you got 3 horses, right? So there's always, so the point here is there's always a deeper meaning to the life events that are happening to us. Because everything that is happening to you is by design, and there is no luck. There is no luck. Everything that happens to you is by design, and it's for your learning a lesson. Some things may happen to you. Have you ever had that experience where it seems like the same type of things keeps happening to you? I'll admit it. Road rage. Oh my God. It upsets me when people drive badly. Okay? To the point where it started upsetting me where, you know, it was very unsettling for me for prostitutes. And so it went on for years, literally years. And it wasn't until like a very short period of time ago, you know, maybe in the last couple of years, that I finally had to stop and said, look how much, you know, Ross and I would get into a fight because she's like, why are you so upset? This is getting dangerous and all. I couldn't control it. I got upset. You know, somebody cut me off or something like that. And so what did we talk about a couple weeks ago, which is, I think it was Ishwarana Prabhu was talking about an unexamined life is not worth living by Socrates, right? So the importance of contemplating and thinking. When you actually think about it, and you sit down and say, why does this keep happening to me over and over again? The answer is Krishna's trying to tell me something. What is he trying to tell me? There's always going to be agitators. You can only control what you control. And you can't succumb to these agitations. Gotta control your senses. Right? So we've probably all had experiences that maybe they're not exactly the same, but if you actually introspect, you'll start to find the answer because it's there. It's just going to keep repeating itself until you figure it out. That's Krishna's way of saying that's what you got to work on. That's your karma, right? We all come with certain life experiences, some karmic reactions that we have to all go through. And one of the ways they manifest themselves until you learn that lesson. Make sense? Yeah. We've all had something maybe like that, that if we actually really think about it, there's a deep, deep, deep seated thing that we have to learn. Okay. So all that to say is Krishna really wants us to turn to him. We said that before, right? When we turn to Krishna, he starts to speak to us. Shambhavi, how many times have you actually talked to Girish without talking to Girish? Never. So why do we expect to talk to God when we don't want to talk to God? So Prabhupada used to say, what, is God your order taker or something? So let me get this straight. Would you walk up to whomever, President of the United States or Prime Minister of India, and say, well, here's how I see things. I need my green card. I need a job. This is how much I want to make. And while you're at it, can you set me up with my wife? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, that'd be foolhardy. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think that we think God should answer all our prayers for material things that we want? Why is that? Why is that innate in us?
Because we think he's our father.
Good. And a father provides, right? Okay, good. And great answer. Anybody else? Why is it that innate in us that doesn't matter how much faith we have or not have faith, it's just normal for us to say, okay, when you think of God, oh yeah, I'll go to the temple. I want to pray. And then when you go pray, I need to pass this test, whatever.
That's how you are inculcated your culture and values from early childhood only, that your parents tell you that if you need anything, just ask God.
Okay. Got it. Did you guys hear that? Basically, it's just our culture to say, hey, when you need something, go to God. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's a good thing in one sense because you're giving up your power of I'm the doer, right? So that's a pretty big lesson to learn, that everything comes from God, right? So maybe that's where that comes from. It's actually a good thing, yeah? Yes.
I think in a different way, it's not coming through the culture, because as far as I know, none of the Vedic literature indicates that just go and ask to the God. But something like that, as a human, people think that there is someone who is much superior to them, and this entire materialistic world is just crafted by the divine power. So he who is offering all these stuffs. So he just go and from the childhood he see others that they are doing this way, so he just start doing this unconsciously. But it's not something like that. I mean, personally, nobody told me that just go and ask. So it's not coming from the culture, but from the learning from others.
Okay. So you had an experience that may be a little bit different, but your point is that if you go to the source can give you what it is. So since God created the material world, he could probably grant me some material wishes. Fair enough. Yes.
We feel so entitled that we don't want to work hard and just want to grab it.
Okay. There's the person who's being honest. Okay. Sometimes, let's just be real. Like, of course, our consciousness is not, oh, since everything comes from God, God's our source, I'm going to go to God. You absolutely could, after your consciousness, gets a little bit more elevated. But more times than not, we're just like, we wanted things easy. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. We don't like challenges necessarily. We're challenge averse. We're obstacle averse, right? So what's the easiest route? He can snap his finger and poof, right? Like if you look on in our, yeah. Did you have something?
Yeah, I know some people who do it out of pride. Also, they think that they are owed reparation because
They're what?
they're owed reparation by God.
Oh, they're owed something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So since they're suffering so much, they
Oh, look how all those things that are happening bad to me,
yeah.
now you owe me.
Yeah.
That's my thing with my wife. Like, look at all this thing I've been doing now. Yep. Good. Okay. Okay, are you familiar with this term life quakes? It's a relatively new term for me. And it just basically, the definition of life quakes would be is something major that's happened in our life, good or bad. that kind of unsettles us. Unsettles us meaning it changes our paradigm in thinking. Yeah? So through a life events, one of the things we have to understand is these obstacles that come our way. We have to shift our perspective of how we think of them, right? So one thing is avoiding obstacles. We're averse. Like if something's in our way, we're like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with it. And Krishna wants us to turn to him. Obstacles are opportunities for spiritual development. So if you thought of obstacles and challenges as a good thing and try to see what Krishna is trying to teach you and what you're going to learn from that, that's the point here. So how many of you guys has taken on a pretty big endeavor, like something that was really, really hard at first, you didn't understand it, but after you started doing it, you're like, wow, that was really hard, but man, oh man, I learned some things. Everything seems like that. So let me ask you a question. There's your friends that are, back in India that didn't do their masters, right? They're happy, right? They're happy as anything. You guys came here, took some risks, worked really, really hard. Why did you guys torture yourself that way? No, honestly, think about that. Why would you do something like this? This is very hard. There was no guarantee that you were going to actually get your degree. Yeah.
Torture was before the masters. Masters is fun.
Masters is fun. You're a unique one. Yeah. But the point is, you worked really hard, right? But think about this. When you go to the gym, if you do a very light workout, yeah, you went to the gym to work out, but you're probably not going to see very good results, right? Now, if you go to the gym and you work out really hard and you continue to do that, you're going to start to see some results. So there's a correlation, right, with something that's really hard and the benefit that you derive from that. Yeah, makes sense, right? It's pretty straightforward. In the material world, the harder, usually the harder the case, the more you're going to grow and learn from it, right? And that's what obstacles and challenges provide for. So instead of saying, oh my God, I just want the easy life, you guys are examples of people who didn't want the easy life. You knew that if you came here, took this risk, came here and worked really hard, got your degrees, learned a lot, hopefully you'll get into the workforce at a competitive advantage than your peers, right? So you took this challenge on because you knew it was going to be good for you. So what if we change that paradigm to everything on our everyday lives? Yeah? When we're having trouble finding a job, it's an obstacle, it's a challenge, right? Maybe there's deeper meaning in there. We're going to get into that. Does that make sense? Okay. Second thing is obstacles are bad, right? The challenge, the illusion that obstacles are bad and should not come in my life at all, right? We all have friends that are like, oh, no, I want the easy life. Let me just chill, play some video games. Don't give me anything bad. But we just talked about it. Challenges can be good. Obstacles can be good. They may be there for learning for us. May change our mindset. Make sense?
Yeah.
And then we got to change that obstacles are insurmountable. Okay, that thinking. So with Krishna as our charioteer, that's why I didn't want to use that word because I can't pronounce it. If Krishna is with us, meaning we have some sort of a spiritual connection with Krishna, we do some sort of a spiritual practice, we start to see that challenges in our lives are not so hard, right? If we're faced with something and you're spiritually inclined, you also start to develop the attitude that Krishna arranged this for me, for my good. Instead of thinking, this random event that is happening right now, why is this happening? But if you start your spiritual journey and you're spiritually inclined, you get this, you understand the concept of everything that happens to me is for my welfare, whether it's good or bad. So we all have parents that have provided a carrot and also have provided a stick to teach us a lesson. In India, literally, right? So, and you mentioned Krishna is our ultimate father, right? So sometimes we learn by good fortune, and sometimes we learn by some challenges, some obstacles that are there. So why do we not take the attitude of to say, you know what, Krishna's trying to teach me something here, and you know what, I can do this because he's with me. I've got to go with it. So when you're spiritually inclined, you should automatically start to change your paradigm as things happen to us. Does that make sense? Any questions on this, guys? Okay. Avoiding obstacles. If you become, this is about 1858, and this is what Krishna says. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but acts as though through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Okay, so you may say, does it really mean what you're saying though? Find out for yourself. Right? As we develop our consciousness, as we develop our spiritual practice through the 9 processes of devotion, we start to understand some of these verses in the Bhagavad Gita from a different light. So Krishna assures us that that's going to happen. Okay, third, intuition. Paramatma in our hearts. So those of you guys that came a little bit later, basically our topic is how and when and in what form does Krishna talk to us, or God or divinity talks to us. So we define devotees, right, as number 1. Number 2, about life events. There's actually a beautiful book about life events. It's called Dark Night of the Soul, Rasa, right? We did a whole, it's a devotee who wrote it, and basically the entire premise of the book is that when some major life event happens to us, that's actually God's way of calling out to you to turn to him. That's an actual spiritual sign to say, turn to me, start your spiritual life. And then it goes through like all the different stages of how to recognize a paradigm shift. It's not like I got a bad grade, God wants me to turn to him. That's not it. It means a real big event that happens in our lives. Anyway, so intuition is the third, and that's Paramatma in our hearts, right? How many of us believe that, you know what? Sometimes I just know what to do. There's something in my heart that is saying that this is the right thing to do. Like, I like this guy. This guy, I can trust him. Yeah? You have that intuition? Right? That's Krishna. That's Paramatma in our hearts. And so how do yogis develop that intuition? Anybody know?
Through bhakti.
Meditators, yogis in the Himalayas, their goal is Paramatma realization, God within oneself, right? And so that's done through meditation. So through how many of you, I mean, we've heard all fantastic stories, right? About powerful yogis being able to be so intuitive it can read your mind and etc., right? That's all done through the practice of meditation and realizing. And so